Welcome back or welcome to Sexy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Aisve.
And I'm Carolina. And today we have an amazing guest, very special, Ana Derada, here with us. She's a sex and couple therapist. So welcome, Ana. Thank you for being with us one more time.
Thank you guys. Thank you for receiving me here again. So excited. Nothing else I can say. So excited.
It is really exciting. And I'm so glad because we started on very important topics. I wanted to dwell a little bit more. It was like sex talk with myself, and now it's like sex talk with a partner. Something that we established it on is that patient is very important, and we have this one wonderful guy behind the cameras, and we just kind of joke that like, oh, he's so patient. So what did you say?
I said, he's probably good in bed if he's patient, like when we were talking.
Yeah, we all laughed about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what is sex talk? Like, how did you guys start it? What is important to you? How do you bring it up? What are the topics? Is it patience? Is it something else? I'm full on super curious to hear.
Okay.
Okay, I will start then. I think I mentioned to you, Asa, before that in terms of talking with the partner, I also struggled. Okay. I don't think I was open enough with him in the relationship. I think also because I started quite late also touching myself and to feel different types of pleasures. I wasn't very good in communicating to my partner that, look, I want to try this and that. So yeah, it wasn't a very easy experience for me. And I think that's why our sex life became boring, As I mentioned in the previous podcast that we had with Isra, that once you are in the very long-term relationship, which I was 15 years with that person, it became more like sex like a part of my job, rather than pleasure for me. It was like, oh, let's have a quickie here while one kid is asleep, another one is at school, or, so it wasn't enjoyable anymore. And I just didn't want to have this anymore, where obviously in the beginning was like only sex day and night, like constantly and stuff. So yeah, so from my experiences was that it was difficult for me to communicate. I think I would be more different now, but in that time I was afraid, and I was giving up on sex also. That's why I didn't want to talk about it anymore. I remember he actually mentioned a few times, oh, maybe we should go to the sex shop to buy something. And I was like, what are we gonna do there? I don't want anything. I don't need anything. I don't want this anymore, because I was so exhausted from waking up at night with the kids, and because every time there was like, oh, let's have it quickly there. It was like, it's a job, it's exhausting. I don't want, I didn't want to explore anymore. I think that was like the biggest thing. So I don't know, you as professional, is it a common thing in couples for a long time, or, maybe you have some feedback on that?
Of course.
I just have one more question that's exactly to that from our listener, because you're talking about, losing passion as a woman in a long-term relationship, and she's in the same situation also, like very long relationship that she has, but her situation is like that the man doesn't want to have sex anymore, and she's like, how do you bring it up? What do I do? So like, yeah, it could happen on both parties, and I think it's a very common thing that we say like, oh, we kind of lose the passion or whatever the thing is, explanation is.
That's super interesting. And thank you for sharing to start with. And I think this touches three things that we have already mentioned. So I'm going to say them so I can remember while I talk. The first one is that, like the pleasure starts in the brain. And with that, I mean like also the base of pleasure and of orgasms and of a good sexual experience is safety. And with that, maybe like in the last episode, I didn't like explain it that deeply. But with safety, I don't mean like, oh, I feel like a bear is not going to attack me right now, right? Because it's more like you feel safe with yourself. You feel safe with your partner in that case, also safe to communicate whatever you need. And that's the thing. A lot of women don't feel that safety because they don't feel like they can express themselves to the partners. They feel like maybe they will be judged, or they are scared. Maybe they won't be judged, but maybe they will. So yeah, if you don't have the space where also some, like, unfortunately, a lot of men, right, learn through porn, and they have in their head this cliche that maybe women are also supposed to be fast like that, or the sex is supposed to be fast and quickie, like, and that touches the third word, which is patience, that we were talking in the beginning of our friend that's very patient. Yeah, patience is so important. It's so underrated. Like, we talk a lot in sex about, like, yo, yeah, does he has like a big dick? Does this good at that? It's like, I would like to ask, is he patient with you? Is he open for you to talk about your to talk about what you really need? Is he willing to listen to you? Does he ask you what you want, what you need? Or if you would tell him, would he actually listen to you and take his time? Like, all these things are missing sometimes, and that can create a lack of connection that maybe was in the beginning, because in the beginning it's also easier to have this fiery thing, because it's like, yeah, like fire, yeah, I just want sex and that. But then when you create this intimacy with the years, I think it's something that you have to feed like a plant. It's not something that is just like you can think that is always gonna be there, especially when life brings you more things. Like, this happened to so many women with the kids, with so many things in life. Like, that also helps with the safety, let's say environmental safety. Like, if you are if you just got fired from your job, if you are changing your new life, you just have a baby, that's normal. That's gonna affect your pleasure. You're probably gonna want less sex because you're thinking of other things, you have other priorities. And I think you should be able to express that with your partner. We should normalize this, and your partner should be able to create a space where you can take your time and say, I'm going through all of this, right now it's very overwhelming, without being judged. And then from there, maybe, yeah, you can have a more sexy experience, because you need to be relaxed to feel sexy, to feel desire. It's normal, like, you can feel you can lack desire after so much stress in your life. And because women take also most of the mental charge in the home and with the kids, this happens to so many women, that they lose the sex desire. And it's not because something biological is happening, it's because your mind is everywhere, because you have to be, right?
Yeah. And is it the same happens to men? What Asa mentioned, that there is this couple also long time together, and
Of course, it can happen. Yeah, because every story is different, right? I cannot say this is like the rule for everything. I'm talking about this about women, because it mostly happens to women, because also statistically, women, we have mostly the charge of the house, like the mental charge, right? We don't talk about that enough, but it's like, usually they do these experiments where the woman say to the father, like, today you're gonna take the kids to school and take care of the kid. And they're like, okay. But then they're like, where do I where's the Tupperware? Where is the homework? What do they have to do? I don't remember. No. And then you realize, oh my God, yeah, because you are always thinking about that as a woman, right? And so obviously that can kill pleasure. Like, you maybe like give it some charge to him as well every now and then. That can be sexy, right? Yeah. But talking again about men, yeah, obviously this can also happen to men, and men on their side, they deal with other kinds of pressure. Sometimes the stereotype that comes from porn or from this toxic masculinity, that they always have to be turned on by everything, right? They have to be sex machines. They have to have it always up, last a lot. All of these are harmful stereotypes that can also sometimes put pressure on a man that has a certain story. And yeah, or life itself also can cause that you're also stressed, and therefore you cannot relax. Therefore, it's hard to have a high libido or want sex or feel deep pleasure. Yeah.
And another thing I want to like dwell into, because we're talking about a man and female relationship, but then I'm like, listening to all of this, and I feel like all of us, we're having sex so differently. And if like what I see, like the porn treats as well, we're like kind of like, oh, this is how like the man perform, this is how the woman perform, and like we have these expectations. But a woman can be also very like driven, and I think it's a very different way to understand. And like a man comes with, like, if we're just like looking at women and female having sex, a man comes like with the drive and energy, and she's receiving, but the woman could be in the same energy. And I think that's where that missing part is, where you said like, oh, then if like feminine isn't a feminine, and like the man can be in the feminine as well. And when you're having sex, like two females, two men, like all of that, it's so interesting. Like there can be so much depth, and I'm a very driven woman, so I can be in different energies. So like what like you're talking about, like, oh, having kids, yeah, it could be that, like, you know, a woman is the one who is like driven and she comes to sex like that, but then the man is more feminine. And it's so interesting because like we usually don't even like explore and think about it, and we just like, oh yeah, you know, this is how a man is. And as you said, like, yeah, you touch this the penis stands and like she receives and that's it, and like boom. And then there's like so much depth of like how I'm living my life, what drives me on my day to day, how much of my mental load is going to one project or the other. For me, like very much sex is sexual energy, and sexual energy is creative energy. And if I'm creating a lot, this podcast, for example, I'm giving a lot of that there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's true. I completely agree. Sexual energy is very related to creativity, and obviously, but it also connects to safety, because if you're able to be creative, usually it's because you are not stressed, right? It's the same. Like in order to be creative, to do a paint, to do a podcast, you have to feel energetic, you have to feel inspired, and for that you have to be relaxed as well. And I mean, yeah, you can maybe sometimes be inspired under pressure, but it's not the same, right? And in regards, oh, sorry, what were you saying at the beginning? I want to remember back.
There's just in general, like we have different energies, and a man could be
Oh, yes.
in the feminine too. And especially if like it's not man and female having sex.
Exactly.
Or even if it's a man and female having sex.
Exactly. Like I think also, yeah, like there's this harmful stereotype that women are always supposed to be, right, the passive, receiving, and that can submissive. That can make a woman feel guilty if she's not turned on by that. You know, a lot of women are turned on by that, and statistically, women also have like lower libido than men usually. And sometimes I wonder if it's because of the mental charge, or if it's like biological, right? Because I have so many questions about that. But for the women that have a higher libido than their men, or that also have this higher drive, or maybe want to be more masculine in bed, it can be hard because they have these stereotypes of like, this is wrong, this is like shameful, I should not feel like this because of the way they were raised. Or maybe even if they are confident, maybe the guy can be like, oh, no, but this is not what I was taught. Like, I am supposed to be the man, right? Otherwise you are making me feel less manly because you are being this. Or they don't want to feel feminine, right? They are like scared of feeling feminine. And I think that's a shame, because it's beautiful to explore, obviously, both energies and both sides. And yeah, and the man is also be able to receive, right, from a woman. Like you can ride him literally, you know, and then you are the one that's giving the power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, oh my gosh, these are such a good topics.
Yeah, super beautiful. Yeah. I would say also that there is another probably stereotype that, you know, okay, each woman has a different experiences. Yeah. But for example, let's say I'm talking from my own experience that, you know, I've been in one long relationship, then I had a very short time with the boyfriend, and then I had another 15 years of marriage and stuff, you know. So it feels like in this generation, if you had a lot of partners, you are more active and you know more things in bed. But if you have like, let's say, long time relationship, and if it wasn't really, as you mentioned in the beginning, it has to be safe to be able to communicate the things you want. So even though I had such a long time with one person, another person, I didn't explore enough. So now I feel like I'm saying to Isra a lot of times, I was like, I was living under the rock or something, you know, like I'm just not, because I'm 39, and maybe now when I go on a date or something, people will expect me that, you know, I'm very like, I know everything. But to be honest with you, I feel like a 20-year-old, because I don't have a lot of that knowledge, what's, you know, in bed, because I was so long with partner, basically, you know. And it's very common now, or what is it to do with, I don't know. You're laughing.
And then there's the flip of the coin. Yeah. And I don't know if that happens to men that much as if it happens to women. But then, like, it's just being judged. If you know, like, I have this experience, you know, some people are like, oh, yeah, amazing. Like, she knows what she likes and everything. But some just like, wait a minute, why? You know, like, as if like, oh, they put a cliche of whatever. And I'm like, so both are like completely good and
Still
valid
judged.
experiences. Yeah, and like
It's still judged.
there's no good or bad, but like yeah, it's being received and like as if something like yeah. Where's the middle point? There's no middle point.
Between, you say, having like a lot of sexual
A
partners
lot of
and just
sexual
one.
partners and experience, and like I would still run into people that like wouldn't see that a good thing, but then she's like sitting on the same couch on another side and having another experience. I don't think we can find the middle ground there.
Yes. Oh my God. I have so many things to say about this. Oh my God. Bring it on. Yeah. I want to start first with what you were saying. Like, I think it's not about having a lot of partners or one, right? Because I think it's about having the right partner. Because if you have you can have with just one partner all your life, but if he's like a patient, open person that is willing to explore things with you, you can learn so much more with him than having sex. Like, I know a lot of people, and me myself, like at a point. And I know a lot of people, like when they have one night stands, they didn't really like become better at sex because having a one night stands. Actually, sometimes you become worse. I don't think it's possible to only learn. Sometimes you can unlearn, or you can learn like toxic things from like because maybe you're having one night stands with guys that are telling you like, oh, but you're supposed to come with penetration, like all my exes come like this, and you believe it, right? You can learn toxic things from one night stands, and you never see the guy again, so you don't know if that's true or not, and maybe you don't look it up, and you believe that. You're like, okay, that I have a problem, right? Or so many examples like this. So again, it's not about having many partners or one. It's about having the right partner or partners, always. That's why I think it's always good to choose someone that is gonna be soft and kind with you. I think like kindness is like so underrated nowadays. It's like you want somebody sexy. What about somebody kind that wants to listen to you? Somebody patient that wants to know what you went through. Most like a study says that 1 in 3 women have gone through sexual trauma, unfortunately, right? And for them, it's also so important to have a space where they can talk about their boundaries. They can say like, this happened to me. I'm not comfortable with this. But unfortunately, a lot of women are scared to say what they are not comfortable with. So we talk a lot about what you want, but also like what you don't want. It's important to be able to say like, this is my limit. So that way, like you have a safety net. You're like, okay, now I know what I can do and I cannot do, and we can explore more. Actually, it's like a freedom. It's not putting out freedom. It's actually giving more freedom, right? To have boundaries.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, and it makes sense because I usually like I just I feel good, so I ask people what they like, I share what I like, but as you said, the freedom is there. Like if there's something that I like and the partner that I'm with doesn't like it, I'm not gonna force it on that person because like it would be projection, it would be like, as you said, pushing the boundaries. I would like, oh yeah,
Exactly, and we should like stop believing that people are gonna read our minds. I think that's also like another problem, right? That it's like it's like, oh, like he didn't make me come, and it's like, did you tell him what you need, in order to come, or did you tell him what you wanted, what you didn't want? He was doing this, it was shit. Did you tell him you didn't like that?
And girl, that's where it comes to me. I remember we were sharing this. And you said like, oh, a man thought that I came because he said that I was making an orgasm noises. And I'm like, what is an orgasm noise? Oh, probably that's what you hear in porn, and but like, and some have awareness and they know because actually you can feel it when a woman comes, but the thing, but sometimes the women don't know what an orgasm is. What is an orgasm?
Well, okay. An orgasm, I would say, like biologically, it's a release of energy, right? When you're feeling so much pleasure that out of your body is gonna tense up a lot, and then you're gonna feel like a release, right? Like kind of like your brain shuts off. I mean, many people describe it differently. It's different for everybody, but obviously, yeah, there's something like a tension and a release that comes with it, and it's like the end of the climax, right? So usually, also like you're gonna ejaculate a little, like both women and men. Yeah, and it's a beautiful experience. But again, I think it's like not the goal, right? Because I think that also can add so much pressure. Like I think it's amazing, and if you want that, you should aim for that. But if you're starting to get to know your body or to masturbate or with a partner, you should maybe know that maybe will take some time. And yeah, I just need some patience, not expect it to go from the first, because that can put pressure on both of you. But if you really want it, you can make it happen. If you have the right partner, obviously, like, yeah, I think even in one night stand, if you have the right partner who wants to listen to you, what you want and you don't want, what you like and what you don't like, it can happen. The problem is that a lot of women don't know what they want, or they don't know what they need to have an orgasm. And that's why I will always recommend it to explore it yourself, right? Either at home, with your hands, with toys, with imagery, whatever you need, and explore this pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, go back to the previous episode where we were talking about like more exploring yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just a little bit, I want to dig a little bit deeper into an orgasm part, because I know that women also get shamed on that like, okay, there are some different ways how to come, vaginally, clitorically. We can talk more about that. And then, and men have this kind of like, oh, there's penetration, and then, like from the movies, from porn, and then it just comes. When you, like, a woman might need a hand, a tool, because like, what is the statistic how many women can come like through penetration and vaginally?
Okay, yeah, I love that. Thank you.
That's a deep topic.
Yeah, I love the question. I think it's so important to clarify many things. So the first thing is that all orgasms, like 100%, come from the clitoris. So the question here will be more like, is it come internally or externally? Because even when you come through penetration, let's say, you're still stimulating the clitoris, like you're stimulating the size of the clitoris inside, your vagina. So it's like, it's still stimulating the clitoris, like whatever it comes from. However, I would say like studies have shown that around, like 70% to 80% of women come through external stimulation, and only around like 11% to 20 like come from what they would call like penetration or vaginal stimulation, but it is still the clitoris. It's just internal. And I think that's so important, right? Because in porn, we, as you said, like we see like sometimes women coming from penetration, and a lot of men think that's like the rule, and it's like, it's not even the rule. It's like such a small minority. Why do you think I belong to that, right? Most women need external. So that could be either by touching yourself while he is inside of you, if you want it to happen at the same time, with a toy, with anything, with oral stimulation, with a finger, but usually it's external for most women. And I think it's important to learn that, to learn what you need about your body in order to come, and to demystify these stereotypes, harmful stereotypes.
For some reason, I don't know if you will relate, but I do find that women kind of feel shameful to claim that sex is there to have pleasure for themselves. And even like this story, about like, well, I call it coming vaginally from the inside. Like I even had a story where I was shamed, and I was like, no, statistically, I just don't belong to that group. And the man came up like, no. My like logic is like 50% of women like can come from the penetration. I was like, well, it's science. Like it's I didn't make this up. It's like, I'm telling you how I'm feeling. So like, as you said, like some people, as you said, like you can have the amazing sex with the same partner just because both are open, patient, safe to one another, are able to listen and talk, because you can talk but might be never heard.
Exactly. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like in the studies also, that has even proven that around 20% of women overall, they never had an orgasm, which is such a big number. And when you think about that, also it makes me doubt even like if the percentage of the women that come through internal stimulation is even lower, because maybe a lot of them, they confuse. They think like, oh, I feel pressure or pleasure, and it's like, okay, that's an orgasm, right? Or what they say, they think themselves they had an orgasm, which is okay. It's valid if you think it is, but I really doubt myself. Really, I think it might be even bigger, the number of people, because it's just how it works. Like mostly it comes from external, and as you said, like this stigma with the orgasm is so important, because as I said before, in order to have pleasure, you have to relax, you have to feel safe, and for an orgasm even more, because what is an orgasm? It's literally letting go. And for women, like that's not something that they teach us, to like let go of everything. It's actually, we're always tense, and tension is the opposite of an orgasm. If you want to reach like the orgasm, you really have to like allow yourself to feel the maximum pleasure, to turn off your brain, to let go completely of how you look, how your face looks, how their partner is looking. And that can be very hard for women when they teach us all the time to be in control of our image, of how we look, of looking great, of looking good, of pleasing the other person. And that's a moment where it's also egoistical. Like an orgasm is egoistical. It's like I'm thinking about my pleasure, not about you. For this moment, for these minutes, it's only about me. And like a lot of women it's hard for them to think only about themselves, even if it's just for a couple minutes, right?
Yeah.
Or like if you need more time. So that's why it's hard for women to come.
Yeah, because it's so different for us and for men. Men comes every time, you know.
Also, they had more experience, right? Since they are kids, like they touch themselves more, and I think they're more in touch with their bodies. I think if we would touch ourselves more, maybe it will be easier for us as well. If we will be more in touch, if we will masturbate more often, also since we are kids, like they do, if we will have been more normalized.
Wow, such a difference, you see? Already since the early age.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, is it because like, you know, the penis is kind of out there and like the clitoris even, you know, the oral is like, oh, okay, so where is it actually, you know, like, yeah, you need to kind of like know and understand it, where with the penis is kind of like more visible. And it's like,
Yeah, it's true. But I do feel, I mean, maybe it's just me as a sex therapist, but I do feel like the clitoris is very up there, you know?
yeah,
Like,
it is very
like
up there.
if you put the image, like it's there, you know, like it's not gonna be down there, no, it's not gonna be in the middle, you know, it's up there. So it's not like you can also like get that lost. It's just like the anatomy, right? And it's just also sometimes guys don't have the sex education. They are scared to ask like where it is because they don't want to seem ignorant. And I think we have to normalize, like it's okay if you don't know, like it's fine, you know, like I want my pleasure, so I am responsible of my pleasure, so I will tell you what I need and where it is. And that made me think of the other day when we were talking about the difference with oral sex and touching, why so many women prefer also oral sex. And it's because obviously like the tongue is like softer, right? It's like wet, like it's more normal to that. Also, like when you're licking everywhere, it's normal that in the end you're gonna touch that, right? And you're gonna like it. That when you're with the fingers, you may not even be touching the right place, or if you are, you may be rubbing it too hard, so maybe it may hurt. So it's also about that, like just saying like I need softness. This is not a DJ thing, you know, like yeah.
Yeah, but it is very true. Yeah, the sensitivity part. And I think the sensitivity part for like myself as a woman is something that you mentioned. Like it's hard for us to like fully relax and let go, because I think this is something that when we spoke in one of the podcasts about the body image, and we just had this conversation upstairs while we were changing in the changing room. Oh, you know, like we have different body shapes, like the boobs. And you know, a lot of women, they're like so aware, they're having sex and they're thinking how something looks like.
That's the opposite of pressure.
Yeah, you know, and then how can you, and then I you know, when you said like, oh, women have lower libido, and I'm like, do they, or do they actually, just because of this whole situation that we're talking about, they having sex most of the time, it's not really pleasurable experience. Maybe, as you said, like, oh, it's just like a go-to because it's kind of a routine with my partner, rather than like, oh, I want it now, I'm taking that pleasure. I mean, yeah, then there's a want, then there's a need, you know?
Completely agree. Yeah, it's we have to learn to be okay with receiving pleasure, with putting ourselves first for a moment, you know, because also like the guy probably is gonna love that, right? He's gonna imagine if you tell somebody like, oh my god, this is the first time I came like this, like with somebody, like I think everybody would love to hear that, right? So I think it's a good experience for both. Like usually if you're a good sex partner, you are gonna get turned on if the other person is also enjoying, right? That's what I define a good sex partner. Somebody that pays also attention to your pleasure because he gets also turned on by that. So yeah.
Definitely. And well, another things talking about having the relationship or sex after you have kids, you know, like it's very true what Isais was saying, you know, I was very much more conscious about how my body looks because I changed a lot, you know, and I didn't feel sexy anymore. And, you know, like as you said, everything starts in your head, but it was in my head a lot. And I think we mentioned in one of the podcasts already that in our society there is this pressure because, you know, we think that, as you said, like woman has lower libido. Okay, man wants it more or whatever. And for me, it was a situation where, like I had a baby, and then there is usually like in the medical system that, 6-week checkup. After they check you, they said, everything is healing, you can do it, But to be honest with you, me and most of the friends I have, was like, I was not ready after 6 weeks, It was still painful. There was still scarring because there is stitches. There is everything. And it's also the mental thing that, I'm not ready. I'm like, because it takes so long. It takes so long for the woman to have a baby, like 10 months, yeah? But it's expected that only after 6 weeks, everything is back to normal, which isn't, And then you feel the pressure from the partner is like, oh, I've been waiting 6 weeks, and stuff. And like this is it's another thing that people don't talk about it. And actually that's when a lot of men start looking, oh, maybe I'm gonna go and find somewhere else sex, because you are not available right now,
And then they ask why women don't have kids anymore. Right, like that's so unfair. And I completely agree. Unfortunately, that happens a lot. Yeah, men like some men they think about their passion. They're not thinking like, oh, is my wife doing okay? Or is the mother of my kids doing okay? She just had a baby. How can I take care of you? And sometimes like I remember the director of my master, he used to say like this master that I did that is called sex and couple therapy, it should not be called, like, I think in the future it's not even going to be called that anymore. It's going to be called more like intimacy master, because like in the end it's not about sex or about love or about couple. It's like that intimacy that you have together, and that is something like a plant that you have to feed every day, like to feel safe, to feel intimate with somebody. It's like to feel like you can fully relax. And if you don't have that person that's supporting you and you feel very alone and you cannot communicate, obviously, how are you going to want sex, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. And we need to talk about this more because I think it will be convenient for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this pressure, and feeling that, it's time. And yeah, I think it's a lack of education, as you say, a lot of men also not educated in that kind of way, knowing what's happening and what we are going through. And it's because everyone is looking at the woman is like, oh yeah, it's natural thing. She has babies and stuff. It's natural, but also what is not natural is all the recovery, all the emotional and the communication. It has to change a little bit, So yeah, it's not. I don't think it's spoken enough. It's not open enough, for the things. And I think we should start teaching the people from the very young age, well, obviously, like when they start this puberty type of thing, talk about this. Because when you look back in my age, we weren't talking about with our peers the start of the period, Okay, so this one is the first step for the woman as a grown up, Where now, when I look at my child who is bigger already, they're already talking about it at school for boys and the girls. And I can see already how the boys are more understanding, because even my son is like, oh, mom, maybe you have those days now. Maybe you're not feeling well for that, because I'm saying, oh, my belly hurts today or something. And he's already understanding. So that proves if we educate our generations earlier with the things, it will be easier. So the same is with the sex education. And as you're saying, that men need to know that, as you said, only 20% can come,
To
through penetration, so that a lot of women, like 80% of women, it's more than every second woman has to be different way pleasured. So if we teach everyone a bit early about this information, then it's become normal, it's not a taboo anymore.
Exactly. Education is always power.
Yeah, exactly. And we need more people like you and, spreading all this knowledge, and sharing all these things, That's like a very, like very precious and important,
Thank you. And thank you for sharing all of that as well, sharing your story with us. That was very powerful. And for sure, education is so important. And I'm glad to see that it's getting better, like compared to like our generation, like you were saying yourself, right? Like I didn't learn about these things and my kids learn about it. Then I can have some optimism, right? And see that it's getting better for sure than what we had. it's also normal that like our generation also started later,
Yes.
masturbating and all of that because we just didn't have the access information. We had more shame. I think shame never helps. I think that's not the right approach to educate. If you don't want your kids to get pregnant or to have STDs, then teach them about it, because they are gonna do it anyways.
Yeah.
And if you don't want, like, you can say, like, I don't want to talk to them about porn because I don't want them to look at it. Like, statistically, they have already looked at it. So, like, maybe, like, just talk about it or take them to somebody who can talk to them about it. That's also a great gift. And I think that also makes you a great parent if you to admit, like, this is my limit. I don't know if I can talk about this. So why don't I get somebody who can? Or, like, find a video, documentary, or, some therapy.
Yeah. And there's another thing that you just mentioned, actually, we should, it's very important. A lot of men think that, using the condoms, it's only for not getting pregnant. Which is crazy because it's a lot to do about the disease. And another thing, a lot of women even don't know that we spoke with Asa before, that you cannot get pregnant all the time. It's only a certain time when you have ovulation. That's the only week you can get pregnant. And we spoke about that. You remember?
Yeah. And I think like sex talk is a never ending topic. As I told you, it's a sexual health is like a transmitted disease. And there's so much more that I think we want to expand on other episodes as well.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I want to bring what you both mentioned like together and like leave it with like a final note. What I see is like the heavy part is on like both female and man. It's not just like, oh, one or the other is doing the wrong. Like even if an amazing man comes into a life and the woman is not able to receive and take the pleasure, as we talked, like, just take and claim it, it's not gonna happen. And the same way around. And what was very beautiful that you said and what you mentioned that you were lacking after giving birth, the intimacy part. I have my own imaginary of like what that is. What do you think intimacy is?
Well, intimacy, I think, is just like a specific space where where you meet with another person, where maybe you share experiences or things that you wouldn't share with somebody else, right? It's like a sacred space where you feel especially safe, right? It's a safe space where you can be intimate. It can be like having specific conversations. It can be having sex, doing like just sharing a part of yourself that usually you save it more to yourself, but you feel so safe with this person that you can share that. And that's how sex should feel like, for sure. It should feel like a sacred space where you can share what you want, what you don't want, and when you can feel safe to say, I don't want this anymore anytime, right? Like we should be able to give that to the other person, I think. That creates intimacy.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I feel like it was a very fiery conversation, so I think it's gonna spark some thoughts for you as well. Any final thoughts, girls?
I just have like questions. Like if you listen to this podcast, I would love to know like what other questions you have. If there's any subjects that you would like us to dive in another time. I really want to know what people want and need. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Anna. So if you have anything you want us to discuss on the podcast, or you can comment under our videos or send a private, like Asa said before. And it's definitely not the last time we have Anna here. We're hoping to get her in the future for sure. Thank you so much for coming and being so open. And, it's so easy to listen to you, it feels so comfortable to have you here. And
Wow, thank you. Again, so honored. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.